That was a celebration of love and sisterhood, only setting the tone for the day to follow. So I hope this gives you a little inkling of what decibel we're going to be resonating at. Does it? Yes, it does. So I need you to use your hands, use your feet to show us you're here. Because it takes a lot of energy for our speakers to come up here. So we could use a little bit of movement. So could we just stand for a moment and celebrate this vivacious morning in New Delhi, Gurugram, and have your hands up? Can I see arms? Can I see your hands? I can't see them. I can't see the back row. I can see tiny little humans in the back table. I can't see. Yes. Can we have our hands coming down to the side? Awesome. And bring them into a clap. And that's for you. Okay. Don't stop. You're not done. Take your left arm and bring it to your right shoulder. Right shoulder. Left arm to the right shoulder. And the right to your left. You know what I mean, right? Left to right. And then give yourself a big hug. Oh, warm, loving embrace of yourself in celebration of you. Thank you all for being here and for being these beautiful, radiant energies that is coming to us multifold. Thank you. Please have a seat as we begin with our second session on day one of the Women Economic Forum in Gurugram 2019. And you know, stuff like this doesn't happen every day. So let's be here with mind, body, and spirit. We're talking about innovation by corporate leadership. Yes, important reminder, which Harbeen just reminded me. We are now beginning with our parallel sessions as well. Victory 1 and Victory 2. So if you have a session there, you may proceed now. We're running, yeah, that's fine, yeah, perfect, okay. So, and here at the plenary, we begin our session, Innovation by Corporate Leadership for Sustainable Businesses. A very pertinent discussion, and it's a pleasure to have the speakers for this session this morning, and it's my pleasure to welcome, if we have Carol amongst us. Is Carol here? I did see her.
Yeah, she'll be here.
Yeah. Elizabeth Edwards. There you are. Welcoming Elizabeth Edwards, coming from the US of A, the founder and president of Volume PR and 11th Octave, an award-winning communication industry leader. It's an honor to have you with us. Please have a seat. Welcoming Medha Khosla. Medha, are you with us, or you'll be joining us in a few moments? Gagandeep. Welcoming Gagandeep. Anisha Patnaik. We'll give them a few moments to join us. And do we have Priyanka Ribu? And if we have Sonika Sarna. Great, okay, so we'll exactly, the weather, we'll be forgiving because the weather is such. We keep the conversation, we will start this beautiful conversation on sustainable businesses with Elizabeth Edwards. Elizabeth, would be an honor to have you share your journey with us this morning. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me to join you all today and share with you my work of improving human communication, connection, and how we can spur positive change in our world with our words. When I attended university, it was my desire to study communication, but to do so through the lens of human psychology. It has always seemed natural to me that if we want to communicate to the best of our abilities, if we want to build nonprofits with the power to change society, then we need to be informed by the sciences on how our minds process and prefer to be engaged. However, the science fields and the communication fields were not combined when I was a wide-eyed college student, and they still are not today. That is the change that I seek to make in our world. I've made it my life's work to perfect the practice of corporate communication, marketing, branding, public relations, all forms of professional communication by integrating and testing together the sciences and what they teach us in the practice of communication. By the sciences, I mean psychology, neuroscience, ethnography, anthropology, behavioral science, behavioral economics. What do these fields teach us about engagement? What do they reveal about the preferences that unite all of us together? Do the sciences hold insights that will make us more effective and successful in creating sustainable businesses, in spurring corporate wellness and well-being, and in sharing our messages to create understanding and excite positive change? The answer is a resounding yes to that. When we have started to align science with communication, what we've understood is that there is actually a blueprint in all of our minds that unifies humanity's shared engagement preferences. When we design communication and campaigns and messages in order to serve those preferences, we are all heard, understood, and successful as never before. So I ask you, my sisters, what is your message? What change are you working toward? What do you want people to understand? And what do you want people to do? Because we can throw messages at people, or we can communicate and engage and draw people in. We can limit ourselves to the theoretical communication, education, and instruction that is taught at our universities, or we can design communication campaigns that compel conversation and change. Communication capable of deepening connection, understanding, and caring. The perspective I ask you to all consider with me today is how can we practice a new level of intention with our words? What strategy underlies how you talk about yourself? Have you ever considered a strategy behind how you position yourself, your business, your company, your country, your passions, your family? You can have confidence that your words and actions will achieve your goals much more rapidly and successfully when we overlay knowledge of the scientific preferences of our minds with the ways that we engage and work with others. I call this practice neuropsychological engagement, or engaging 100% of the mind, both conscious and subconscious, simultaneously with our messages. When we do that, we achieve such tremendous progress. I have practiced this for the last 18 years as I have owned Volume Public Relations, a award-winning, as my friends here shared, public relations, marketing, and communications agency headquartered in the United States with clients around the globe. With those clients, I've had the opportunity to take many of these things that I, as a lifelong student of the psychologies and sciences, and through my agency as my sounding board and practice area, taken those sciences and applied them to see what truly spurs positive behavior change. What do we know to be true that unifies all of us? And that when we communicate based on those laws and those principles and rules, we are able to be exponentially more successful. So I'm so honored to be here today to share this work with you. And I look forward to discussing it in much more detail around how we can create new levels of success, sustainability, and corporate wellness and well-being by doing all of this. I will be today at 11 talking a bit more about this in relation to social media, and tomorrow, I believe also at 11, speaking about it specifically in terms of our words. And I hope that you will join me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I loved what you said about intentionality in our words. I remember an occasion I was with Vinay. He was somewhere, and a reporter from a newspaper, leading daily, had been trying to get an appointment with him, and she found him in this education fair, and we were there, and she says, I have been, waiting for this, looking for you to have this appointment with you, and I've been unable to get in touch and get through to you. So when can I have an appointment with you? And he said, right here, right now. And she's like, no, but I need an appointment with you. He says, you have it right here, right now. And I think that's what Elizabeth was going through my mind when you said, you have your word. And you have the choice to put intentionality in your word right here, right now. This is the moment. So seize it with intentionality. What is your message? What do you want to say? You can actually make a difference now with the next word that you choose. So thank you, Elizabeth, for coming all the way to share your wisdom, your experience with all of us right now, and we look forward to your 2 sessions coming up today and tomorrow. Thank you. Mansi?
Yes, thank you so much, Rabeen, and thank you, Elizabeth. So we are going to be deploying this neuropsychological engagement like we've learned today. So practice it, girls, this morning, all day. And I think that's the power of intentionality that Rabeen just reflected on as well. So thank you. I'd like to invite a couple of speakers who've just joined us as well. Welcoming Medha Khosla, the founder of Anomaly. Ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to please put your hands together, circulate that blood, flow the energy. Medha, if I could request you to have a seat, and I'll invite you to speak in a moment. I'd also, yes, there's lots of you, did you say? Lots of, yes, yes, there is. I'd like to invite Sonika Sarna as well, welcoming Sonika, the founder and CEO of Sonika Sarna Design, an award-winning ethical design and apparel sourcing company. It's a pleasure. And I'd like to invite the lovely Carol to join us on the stage. Welcome, Carol. We're celebrating your oncoming motherhood. We're so touched that you're here, doing everything you can, and this is what we stand for. This is the feminine energy that we're representing here. So if I could invite you to also speak with us and share your journey, please. I welcome you onto the dais.
Thank you so much for this beautiful energy you give us. Thank you, Dr. Harbin. Please, all the team of the Women Economic Forum, it's my pleasure to be here. You can imagine the honor that I have as a Latin American woman to be here. It's very important for me. Just a little bit about my journey as a professional. I'm an industrial engineer from Colombia, MBA from the Andrews University in the United States of America, and used to work for 15 years in different companies for the financial sector, telecommunications, had the opportunity to have different roles. And someday I decided just to be an entrepreneur. When you work for a company, you have a last name, right? You work for a big company, you are Carol from X company. But when you are an entrepreneur, it starts like a big journey, right? It starts a different path. And when you are an entrepreneur for social issues, it's a big path too, okay? So I'm really thankful for this opportunity. Sometimes we've been too busy building our reputation, building our brand, and trying to prepare ourselves as a professional, because women are challenging to be a good professional, that we have forgotten to spread some essential principles in life, as gentleness, as love, as, you know, the power of love, the power of serving others. It's what really fills our hearts. It's what really builds a good culture, wellness, and well-being, not only in our organizations, but in all our lives. So if we want to definitely build a new culture for women, a new culture in which you close the gaps we have, not only in terms of salary, but also in terms of opportunities, we need to start spreading the message of the soft skills, the technical skills, and the good principles of life if we want to make a good change in the world. So that's why I invite you to join me too. Today we're going to talk about education and the power of education to change the world, and tomorrow the power of our words to change the world. So there are many things that we are going to be talking about. So thank you for accepting me in this wonderful place.
Thank you so much, Carol, for coming all the way from Colombia and sharing the sunshine from that part of the world, which is warm, celebratory, and as vibrant as we hear. So thank you for representing Colombia here this morning with us. And you really do represent a change agent, the leadership that is required in the world 4.0, as you say. Thank you. I'd like to invite to speak with us and share her transformative journey, welcoming Medha Khosla.
I didn't prepare anything for this talk because I thought that I'll just be spontaneous and share a little bit about myself, my journey, and what we do at Anomaly. I first must thank you and everybody for inviting me to speak and to be a part of this wonderful panel with everybody here. I have to say, as a woman, as an entrepreneur, as a professional, I feel especially empowered today to be standing here, being supported by some wonderful men in my life, my father, my husband, and wonderful women, all really coming together to start my brand, which basically started 4 years ago. I spent many years in the United States studying at Pratt and then working in New York in fashion for 10 years and having this dream all along of coming back to India and setting up a business here. And as we all know, there are many challenges to setting up a business in India today, especially for women. And I think more often than not, we feel that, we shouldn't speak up, we shouldn't initiate, we shouldn't, be bold enough to carve out our own niche. And it's been a very rewarding journey because, surprising to me, I've been able to work with many, many incredibly talented men and women along the way and build a brand which is basically built with the support of all these people. A little bit about what we do is, this brand is about celebrating women, dressing them in clothing which is accessible, affordable, and made entirely from Indian textiles. And the aim with this is to make every woman feel included in feeling great about themselves. And that was the aim, that was the goal. And now we see many, many women across India, across the United States, in the UK, wearing our clothing. And this has always been my intention, is to celebrate every single woman that I come across, to thank her for the support, and to also make them feel and make all of us feel strong enough to speak up, to take decisions, to not be looking at the next man in line for their permission to do something, to start a business, and, you know, just like everybody here today, to feel confident enough that, you know, I can do something. And it's a very small thing that I grew up with, and I must thank my father here, who's sitting here today, that I was never raised. I was never raised, thank you, in the family to, you know, to think that I can't do something because I'm a girl. And this special privilege that was instilled in me from a little girl that I was by my father, who never ever stopped me and said, you can't do this, you can't speak like that, you can't dress like that because you're a woman or you're a girl. And that is something I would say I found many, many, many years later with my husband, who is also here, who came along the way in my life and just sort of has never ever once said, you shouldn't talk like that, you shouldn't dress like that, you shouldn't set up this business because our marriage is more important, or, you know, don't put yourself ahead. And these are small things that I think really shape us as women, even though we feel, I think we live, all of us live with a lot of guilt and with a lot of, you know, feeling of I can't do this, or I can't say this, I can't get ahead. And I think my message here today was not to talk about my brand, but it was mostly to say that nothing should ever stop us from following our dreams. Anything is possible. And I think all of us here sitting here have somewhere, I think I would say, felt that maybe I should put my family forward first, or this other person forward first, or their dreams forward. And that's also really beautiful. But let's not forget us, the woman behind all of these amazing things we do, to just take a moment and appreciate that. And I'm really grateful, Harbeen, to be a part of this, and thank you for recognizing us all in this amazing platform. So thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Medha, for that beautiful tribute straight from your heart. We're so grateful you didn't prepare. Because thank you for offering that tribute that really recognizes that we're really standing on the shoulders of all the men and the women and our mothers and our fathers and all the support systems that surround us. We're standing on their shoulders. We're standing here because they set the path for us. So this is in honor of your support. Thank you, Medha, for shining the light in that direction. Thank you. I'd like to invite the very lovely Sonika Sarna, the founder and CEO of Sonika Sarna Design, India. What city are you from?
I'm originally from here. I'm born in Delhi.
Delhi girl, welcome. Over
Yes,
to you.
Delhi girl. Hello. Good morning, everyone. I almost didn't make it, so I'm really happy to be here. This is a really cool room. It's almost entirely women, I see. We touched on a really interesting topic about being entrepreneurs and having an identity that's like an individual identity and then starting your own company. And I took it like all the way. I don't have my company and a surname. My name is my company, primarily. The reason behind that is when I started doing the work I was doing, I didn't have money for branding. And I was focused on so many things, going out there and talking to people in the fashion industry, which is the industry I come from. And when I finally was able to establish a legal entity, they knew who I was as a person over and above anything else. And so that's why I was like, okay, I am my company. And therefore, that's why my company is named after me. And now I can't tell the difference anymore. We're one being. I'm amongst really wonderful people here. All of you have really inspiring journeys and stories that I'm looking forward to hearing. I was thinking about what I could contribute to this forum or share, which perhaps you would resonate with. And if I were to define my journey in one way, it would be of courage. Quick background, as she mentioned, I'm a Delhi girl. I've had the fortune of living in a couple of different countries, and my education and experience is in the mainstream fashion industry, primarily in the American and European market. When I first started, I was a young, inspired designer who wanted to create beautiful things. This is back in the 2000s. I look younger than I am. What I began to encounter in this space that I had joined to be a creative professional were, unfortunately, very many things that were wrong. I know that there's a lot of conversations now about sustainability and about social impact and about how we treat people within our work environment. But when I first started, it was common to have workers living in slums, for us to create really cheap product that was mass-produced and then dumped every couple of months. And I was one person, and I was asking these questions, and I didn't really have a platform, a forum, or a mentor who could guide me on how to fix the problems that I was seeing. I'm so sorry, I'm a little, apologies. I'm a little nervous. As I said, thank you. Reminder to self, story about courage. So I've been working in the apparel industry for the last 2 decades. My work essentially is working with fashion brands to figure out how they, as a corporation, can change their practices to have positive social and environmental impact. When people ask me, what are you? I call myself an ethical sourcing consultant. The air quotes are because I made it up. I was just in fashion. I was working with brands, with factories, with buying offices, with huge corporations all over the world. I've had the good fortune of working with some of the largest brands in the world. And I saw these problems, and we just didn't know how to fix them. And then I began to find ways to fix them. It's been a long journey, and we've, in the last 10 years, had the fortune of working with some of the largest apparel companies in the world. And we're responsible for setting up their sustainability strategies, which are all very big words when you put them onto a poster or a website. But what they basically mean day to day is that because of brands engaging with us, we're able to provide employment opportunities in over 40 artisan villages in India across 16 states. These are rural communities which, if they didn't receive orders from the brands we engage them with, essentially would stop their traditional artisanal craft. And not only are we preserving traditional craft communities, we're also helping have a socio-economic impact in the local ecosystem. So if any of you have had the opportunity to go into a village, you'll find that in areas in rural India where there's weaving clusters, it isn't just weaving or printing or embroidery, it's their way of life. Entire families live and work together, and when that craft or that community dies out, a way of life dies out, and then we have mass exodus into the cities, which creates, as you know, all of the thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who are begging or becoming rickshaw drivers or getting jobs in shopping malls. So I think what we do is really cool in that we have brands like the H&Ms, the Alien Fishers, the J. Crews, the big apparel brands are able to have direct social and environmental impact in rural India, and we have been able to succeed in doing that by creating skilling opportunities for communities, because we identified and recognized that no one needs help, everyone needs opportunity and access. And so we essentially go into villages in India, we identify communities that have really unique skill sets, and then we train them, or rather up their skill set to industry best practices. So we're responsible for making small artisan villages, communities, family-owned businesses, entrepreneurs in their own right. So when I stand here, I'm not really an entity with this huge sort of corporation backing me, but when I say we have 40 villages that work with us, I'm talking about 40 different entrepreneurs in and of themselves. So if we work with block printers in Rajasthan, or tie-dye communities in Jodhpur, women who still live in Parda, or weaving communities in Andhra Pradesh or in Tamil Nadu, each of these communities are now self-owned independent businesses that are able to sustain their communities and continue their way of life while having a more modern and contemporary market. On the flip side of that, a big thing that we've been able to do is sensitize large corporate brands, especially worldwide and a little bit now in India as well, about the impact they have in their buying decisions. And so we've been able to work with huge corporations, pivot the money they're putting into their supply chain to have positive impact. So in addition to the social impact we have when they're engaging villagers, we also work with brands to source sustainable fabrics. We work with a ton of recycling material programs, and we also run a women's sewing center in the slums of Okla, which is again women who were probably married off at 14 or 15. Many of them by the time they're 22, 23 have had a couple of miscarriages, have 3, 4 children, have never been sent to school, never had opportunity. And just because they show us the courage to showing up at our doorstep, with the same ethos of providing training and opportunity, we provide them the skill sets necessary to be able to become industry-level seamstresses. And what that does is that they're able to earn as much as their husbands do, and so the whole story of their families and therefore their daughters changes. I had mentioned briefly earlier that we also work with a ton of sustainable textiles and materials. The stories there are pretty interesting as well, where we go into regions where cotton is being grown, we go into regions where cotton is being spun, is being woven, and we identify huge negative environmental and social indicators, and we find ways to fix the problems. So for example, in Tirupur in South India, where a lot of the apparel is being produced, in some villages the land is actually completely red because they dye the fabric and they take the dye water with the toxins in it and they use it for growing their crops, food that all of us are eventually eating. These chemicals are carcinogenic, and so we worked with these communities with a natural technology to recycle their water using earthworms so that the water then becomes drinkable. What I'm trying to give you a sense of is that we started with a really simple idea. Like I said, an idea of courage, which is I work in fashion. If I see something wrong or problematic in my place of work, is there a way for me to fix it? And I'm evidence here standing in front of you saying we can, whether we're one person, whether we're a large organization, whether we have a support system or not. If we make a choice of courage, if we apply ourselves, we can change the world because the world really is our backyard. When I first started, the simple idea was, like I said, to promote the concept of ethical fashion, and I had no clue what I was getting myself into. But now I'm part of this really large family of communities, textile mills, and women's cooperatives, and just I get the opportunity to meet other really cool people doing really interesting things, other people who care about the world, who have the courage to try and do something right. And I find myself really grateful because when I started this journey, I didn't think that I would get to where I am. And today is just another step in being part of an even larger family. And so I'm just really grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonika, for sharing your journey and your voice with us. And you are what I would call a cause artist entrepreneur, using your entrepreneurial and creative skills for the good of the world. So you're really walking that talk. So thank you for doing all that you're doing. And here's to you. We're joined by 2 lovely ladies. I'd like to invite Gagandeep Bhullar onto the stage, please. The founder of the Superhuman Race. A technologist and an entrepreneur in the area of data analytics, gaming, and behavioral dynamics. I'd like to also invite Priyanka Rebu. Priyanka, there you are. Welcoming Priyanka, the founder of Liberty, exploring tech solutions for child protection in India. This lady comes from a vast bouquet of experience, and we can't wait to hear her story. Priyanka, if I may invite you to see, yes, keeping you busy.
It's been fast-tracked.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, the fast track.
Thank you. Namaskar, esteemed organizers. I congratulate you for the vision of Women's League and this Women Economic Forum. I'll start with a Ved mantra. It's Ayam Nija Paroveti Ganana Laghu Chetsam Udara Charita Nam Tu Vasudeva Kutumbakam. I'll say this. Ye mera hai, this is mine. Ye uska hai, it is theirs. ऐसी सोच संकुचित चित्त वाले व्यक्तियों की होती है. This is the thought of people with small minds. इसके विपरीत उदारचारिता वाले लोगों के लिए तो ये संपूर्ण धरती ही एक परिवार जैसा होता है. Contrary to this, for the large-hearted, for the generous, for the compassionate, the entire world is their family. I started Liberi in 2017 with a vision to be innovative for everyone. Liberi is a Latin word for freedom. It also means children in that language. See any young child and you would know why it is the same in the language. Children and freedom are synonyms. Children are at the center of our global village, Vasudev Kutumbakam. And the essence of Liberi is to ensure the freedom for children, freedom to be in the freedom to think. And freedom to think is the freedom to create, to challenge, to innovate. Innovation is the use of new methods or ideas. It is the biggest buzzword that we face today. Everything is about innovations. While the history of innovation is the history of advent and progress of humankind, and while all innovations in history were largely for the benefit of humanity, over the course of last century, we have seen that innovation rush has been towards profitability and for making money. Innovation for good are still at a nascent stage, and that is where all of you come in. Social innovations do not find a market as yet, and therefore do not come into the space of mainstream businesses. The sustainability of businesses lies in its impact. Impact at scale, impact in terms of multiplicity of geographies, and impact in terms of perpetuity of time. That is, it is present beyond here and today. Traditionally, sustainability of businesses has been driven by this thought. Yet today, we have reached a space where the pursuit of profits has led to the work over the last centuries, a destruction of environmental, social, and the cultural fabric of the world, thereby threatening the humankind itself and exposing our most vulnerable, our children, to grave dangers. Liberi is an humble endeavor for freedom of all children. It is a young idea of using technological might of the world to ensure children are safe and thriving. How many of you wear an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, or a smartphone, have a smartphone or a tracker? Can we raise hands? Everyone. Well, I see that's a significant number of you there. Imagine if we could harness this for the poor and vulnerable children, for our girls out on dark streets, for any child in Unnao, in Nagpur, in Delhi, across the globe. There have been many before me, and I'm sure there will be more, who have had this idea of a wearable safety device and embarked on this audacious product. Still, we don't see it in the market yet. Well, why is that? I ask you. It is because those who need it cannot afford it. Digital technology-driven social innovation is still taking baby steps. The people who need the products or services, the ones in the villages, the ones in the slums, the ones in the far-flung areas, cannot afford them. And the market which can, do not need them. And that is the situation that we face today, a catch-22. What we need is for businesses to step up beyond profitability and planet and think in terms of what we say, the 4 Ps. Profit, of course, we need businesses at the end have to be driven by profit. Planet, they need to be sustainable. People is the 3rd P, and peace is the 4th. Business as usual, the business as we see today, will buckle under the sustained turmoil in economies. We're seeing it, in fact, unemployment, food insecurity, water scarcity, hunt for renewable energy, and climate change. And today, in fact, civil unrest and the fragile peace we are witnessing are outcomes of that. And under duress, the world community, we must collectively engage to find solutions reflecting and innovating for sustainable change and development. For profit, and here I mean prosperity for everyone. For planet, not just green, but for every species on the earth to thrive. For people, to the last one, here I ask you to imagine the most disadvantaged, marginalized girl that you can think of and see if our endeavors are helping her. And for peace, not just the lack of conflict between states, rather, here it is the equilibrium between the first three P's, profit, planet, and people. That is the peace. For all this, we need visionary leaders, especially women leaders. Leaders like you who would go beyond business as usual. Leaders like you who would take the hard road. Take it because it is the right thing to do, not just for the short-term profit, for the change that we collectively envisage for us and our society. I deeply and humbly appreciate the honor and opportunity to stand among you and with you. I appreciate the very generous expressions of support from the Women Economic Forum and the All Ladies League. Nor at this moment, I would like to thank my family and friends who have given me this support and help. Their wisdom, guidance, and oftentimes critique shines through the idea of liberty, especially my partner in crime, Bhuvan, for hanging in there. So thank you, Ms. Kaur, for this honor. Thank you, Women Economic Forum. And I wish all of us success in our endeavor for the good of all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Priyanka, for sharing your evocative journey and for really shining the light once again on that perspective that we as a community need to stand for, that power that is embedded and instilled in all of us, within. And we can, and we will, and we need to. You know, if we have to, we need to get on the streets to really get our voice heard, because there wasn't a time better than now to make it happen. The world is shining the light on women leadership. So this is our time to shine, to rise, and really come out there and share and love. I'd like to invite Gagandeep Bhullar to speak with us and share her journey. She's the founder of the Superhuman Race, and she's going to share her career and her personal story with us. Welcoming you, Gagandeep.
Looks like I walked to the podium too fast. I'm sorry. So before I start on my career and my story, I actually want to talk about you for a little bit. And I think, as all the women sitting here, how many of you have read Lenin? Okay, one person has read it. Maybe a couple more who are shy to raise their hands right now. In Lenin, Sheryl Sandberg talks about courage being the final post in so many ways. Over the years, women have made sacrifices that go beyond home, that go beyond work, that go beyond society. And those sacrifices are the reason that we are sitting in this room having this conversation today. They're sacrifices that our mothers made, in all likelihood, right? And as we sit here and talk about those sacrifices today, I want each and every one of you to have a fire in your belly. What is it that inspires you? What is it that you would like to personally change in the world around you? And that is where the story of good begins. I used to work at the Boeing company. I was with them for over 6 years. And many of you know about Boeing for different reasons. It's
the oldest airplane manufacturer in the world. So they were the first people to put a dream that humanity has had, the dream of flying, into reality. And yet, every time anything goes wrong with even a company of the stature of Boeing that values its employees, that wants to make the world a better place, we instantly judge as individuals. We judge the people that go wrong, even if it's a single time. Why does that happen? And this question, when you contextualize it against the world that we live in, we start realizing that every piece of information that we have is borrowed. What you believe about Fitbit, what we believe about the children in Africa, for those who have never been to Africa, what we believe about the opportunities in the US, they're all borrowed information. This is information that we borrow in the context that it is provided to us. It could be paid PR coming through newspaper sources, or it could be tribal knowledge coming through social media. When I say tribal knowledge, I actually use that word to replace the word gossip. And gossip is not necessarily a bad word, right? So gossip is the reason why society moved forward. It is the only reason why any social norms could be enforced. Isn't that true? Like, women have been derided for gossip for so long, but it is the only way to enforce social norms. Otherwise, somebody could walk into this room today wearing, I don't know, a pair of very short shorts and a flimsy vest, and the gossip in this room would judge them, and they would know that this is not the right thing to do for this forum, right? So then, taking that perspective, so tribal knowledge and sources of information, which are usually either paid or they are not curated, that puts the onus on women like you and on people in general, whether it is the youth, whether it is an older population, it puts the onus on everyone to come up with better sources of information, to let companies like Boeing to not be judged when something goes wrong. And I'm just using Boeing as an example because I know how great the company is, and I know that it has been judged in the recent past. It could be any other company. It could be Kingfisher. I never worked for Kingfisher. I don't know whether it was a good company or not, but I know that my information, my knowledge of everything is borrowed. So how do we change that? And the only way to change that is to start forming this revolution that we are in. Especially as women, we always participate in the revolutions in a soft way, right? So we're always kind of going along with the flow, but we are never the ones who are shouting the slogans from the top of the terraces, and, you know, we're not at the front end of it. It is a reality that has been timeless. There have been women who have stood out, but the reason why they've stood out is that because so many of us haven't participated. So I want you to have a fire in your belly, and I want it to be contextualized in the world that we live in. Technology forms the world that we live in. So when we talk about the product that I built after I left the Boeing company, we talk about 3 environments. Each and every one of us lives in 3 environments. The first is the cultural environment of your existence. The cultural environment of your existence could be the city that you grew up in, the schools that you went to, the houses that you live in, and also your workplaces in so many ways, right? So that is an environment that lives within you. It informs every decision you make, everything you say. Coming from the cultural environment of Africa versus the United States, even within Africa, coming from one country or coming from another, would influence how you would talk about something. So that cultural environment is the first piece. The second piece is actually our technological environment. And this is a significant piece that I want you to think about, because technology can transform. I don't know how many of you know this, but one of the most insignificant changes in technology from our perspective as individual consumers contributes to 87% businesses becoming more sustainable, not just from the point of view of the climate, but also from the point of view of business profitability, so money, dollars. And I'm sure nobody in this room can answer this question, but it's cloud computing. Could you ever think that something as simple as cloud computing that never touches us during our day actually makes the planet and business more sustainable in so many ways? So technology contains the answers to everything, including ensuring your reputation, which is what I started with. So how can we ensure our reputation by connecting with real people in real ways? And then the final piece of the three environments is our physical environment. So right now, we're in this room having this conversation in person. But how often does that happen? How often are we fully engaged in a physical environment when we're actually talking to people, learning from them, helping someone, performing a random act of kindness? It doesn't happen often enough. And the ill effect of this, most surprisingly, is that we live fewer years as a result of this. We become less productive. Even the companies that have invested in experiential engagement. So of the $720 million that were spent last year on employee engagement by companies in the United States, only 15 out of 250 companies invested in experiential engagement. And the companies that did, their profitability per employee was 4x for the same pay. That is how much more productive we can be if we allow the chemical processes in our brain to be guided by our physical interactions on a day-to-day basis. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
And that's a lot to say, Gagandeep. Thank you so much. You're right, because we are at this moment, like we've been talking all morning, we are a part, women are a part of this most gentle, most quiet, yet a very, very profound revolution that's happening as we speak. And on that note, I'd like to call upon Carol Helena Guido, coming from Colombia. Please accept this honor as an exceptional woman of excellence at the Women Economic Forum. Ladies and gentlemen, I encourage you to please throw some love and light this way. Inviting Elizabeth Edwards to accept this honor as the Exceptional Woman of Excellence. On behalf of the All Ladies League at the Women Economic Forum, Elizabeth coming from the USA. Medha Khosla, we invite you to accept this honor for the work you do and the legacy you created at Anamali. Inviting Gagandeep Bhullar to accept this memento as a token of our gratitude and affection on this resplendent morning at the Women Economic Forum 2019 in Gurugram. Sonika Sarna, congratulations on this honor. You are indeed an exceptional woman of excellence. Inviting Priyanka Rebu, please accept your honor as an iconic woman creating a better world for all. It's been an honor to hear your story and learn from it. Ladies, I request you to come up for a group photograph so we can capture this moment. Thank you. Can you use the instruments that we've so generously offered you? There you go. Thank you. That's more like it. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for being with us. We have